the call came out of a man in the neighborhood walking down the street shooting people. I could tell by the dispatcher's tone of voice that whatever I was going to was real. I mean, sometimes you can just tell. Getting out of the car, I saw that there was a guy laying in the front yard. He was bleeding from the chest. I remember trying to cross the street, having that feeling of almost like you're trying to move in water. But as I get across the street, I'm starting to hear more and more yelling, and then I realize that they're kids. They're little kids. The guy in the front yard is still conscious. He's pretty pale, he's shocky. As I move past him, he grabs a hold of the cuff of my pants. I knew I needed to go into the house, but I knew that leaving him, I was basically making the decision that he was going to die. I couldn't stop long enough to explain to him why. And I knew any good father would want me to save his kids. It's in this 2 or 3 second interaction that the next 8 years or 10 years of my life unravel around. My wife could see changes in me, she said, and that it wasn't a mood, it wasn't a phase. She said that I had become somebody different. I've been a police officer for 16 years. You know, as I look back in my career, that was one of the things that I couldn't understand was I'd been through some other things that were as bad or worse that weren't even a blip on my radar. Started having nightmares almost nightly, an entire nights where the sleep might be 2 hours. I couldn't shut the noise off. I couldn't shut the visions off. Sometimes in the middle of the night, just exhausted, dripping with sweat. And I would think that there would be peace in death. And then I started to fixate on somebody coming to my house to kill me. There were guns in every part of my house now. I had ballistic vests under my bed. To think that I was contemplating suicide, it's even hard for me to understand now. My wife sat me down and told me that either I stopped drinking and got help, or she was going to leave. I didn't start even associating that maybe what I had was post-traumatic stress until probably a few months before I came here. You know, when I left to fly out here, I had no idea what was going to happen. They brought me over to the unit and introduced me to the guys that were there. And I remember immediately the first thing that I had to do was, after I introduced myself to them, is we had to play the cops and firefighter game. I had to pick out who was cops and who was firefighters, which I did terrible at. Being around peers was vital for me. It was the only reason I think that I was willing to even talk about it. It went from an event that I relived to a memory very quickly. It changed the way I thought about what was happening and what I had gone through, and then gave me tools to learn how to manage it. And I don't have to take it with me anymore. You know, the way we're trained, and then the public perceptions of we are the ones that help people, we aren't the ones that ask for help. Our own perceptions of that, we are the ones that help people, and we don't ask for help. I think all of that drives not just the stigma, but I think that also is what sets us up sometimes for some of these stress issues. Probably my biggest regret was that I lost almost 10 years of my life living in this horribly dark place, completely removed from all of the things that made me who I am, that I enjoyed, for almost 10 years. And I didn't have to live like that. There's a better way to live. And as uncomfortable as it was to ask for help and admit that I was having a problem, it was all worth it.